Okay, so hopefully you made your wire sculpture yesterday, so you have the basic layout of what this animal is going to look like. You have a long neck for a giraffe, kind of an oval-shaped head, oval-shaped body, and then the legs that are down at the bottom. I realize that these still move, but they're at least stuck where they need to be. You don't want to, this is something I didn't really think about, but you don't want to just tape the wire on. I know that I said if it doesn't stick, or if it doesn't stay, put a piece of tape, but I guess I was assuming that everybody would have like a hook on there. And so I had a few people today that I was helping that when I pulled on the wires, they just pulled right out. So make sure there's a hook. If you can't get the hook to stay, then go ahead and tape it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start with this part. I have some places that are 3D. So I have the body and the head that have some sections in there that need to be filled up. So I'm going to fill those up with some newspaper. I am not just going to take an entire newspaper and wad this up. Okay, so if I have a newspaper and I try and crumple this up, look at what this does. Okay, it's really hard to get this to smush into a compact, like dense piece of newspaper. Okay, if I open this up and I have like an entire piece like this, okay, then I'm able to crumple this and get this into a very dense, solid piece of newspaper. Okay, so there's a big difference between this and crumpling up an entire newspaper. Okay, so you can see the difference between those two. Okay, this one has lots of holes and is not really filling things up. Okay, so I'm going to take this piece and crumple this, and believe it or not, I'm going to use it on this one because I want this to be like a very solid piece inside the animal's head. Okay, there should not be any room for like wiggle in this. It's completely dense. It's okay that it's kind of sticking out. If you have some places that are falling out that don't look as good as you want them to, you could put a piece of tape over it. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing down to the bottom. This is going to need more pieces, okay, that are opened up where it's just one piece to get these to fill in this area. Some people will say, okay, look, I'm done. Okay, there is a ton of empty space left in him. Okay, so we would just continue to add to this by opening up single pieces and crumpling these. And then if it doesn't want to stay, you can wrap a piece of tape. The tape needs to be intentional. You should not be putting tape on something without the intention of trying to get it to the paper to stay somewhere. Okay? We shouldn't be thinking, oh, I'll just wrap the entire thing in tape. Okay? It needs to be intentional, like I want this piece to stick down to this piece. Okay? And then if you end up with lots of tape, then so be it. But it shouldn't be, I just want to like cover him because that's wasteful. Okay, so this is pretty solid too. Okay, so I'm going to move on from this part of the body. Okay, I'm not going to worry about this. I'm going to go ahead and look at his legs right now. And I'm going to show you a couple of different techniques that you can use. I'm going to go ahead and measure these so I can figure out how big I want these to be. These are like 6.5. And so if I was using newspaper, I would go ahead and figure out, okay, where is 6.5? Okay, and I would make them that length. Okay, so you could cut them that length, or like with this one, I'm just going to fold. Okay, so this is 6.5 wide, so I know that this is a good length for that leg. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fold it one more time, and then I'm going to roll this piece, and I'm going to make a tube. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and tape this together. And this is a good way to quickly make the leg for this giraffe. Okay, so you would just thread this through the centerpiece, and then you would be able to tape it to the actual form up here. Okay, so I would tape and get this stuck, and you might even need to make an X where you're taping across that to make sure that it stays. The nice thing about having a piece of wire inside this is that I could bend his leg and change the position of it, right? And then it would be able to stay where you want it to, as opposed to just having a piece of cardboard or a piece of newspaper here. It's just going to be like just a straight piece of paper. Okay, it's not going to be able to be moved. Okay, so now I have a section here. I could have maybe done the same thing that I did here and slid this over before I crimped this. So if you wanted to pull it apart, you could. But there are lots of right ways to the same result. And so let me show you at least what I would do. I'm going to go ahead and figure out how big this is or how much I need. So this looks like 4.5. So I'm going to go ahead and use my paper and figure out like where that would be. So 4.5, it's like right here. I'm going to go ahead and cut this extra part off and then tape it just to kind of help myself as I wrap this around so it doesn't want to fall apart. Same thing on the end. So I can put this on here. Okay, and again, I'm going to put some tape on this, and then I would be able to take this and just wrap and cover this part up. And then I would be able to stop whenever I felt like, okay, this is as big as I want this to be. Let's just see what that, okay, I almost think that's good where it's at. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and tape that part so I have his neck covered, I have his head filled up, I have his body filled up. I know what I would do with his legs. For the tail and for anything that is like tapered, so something I talk about like things looking like the shape of a carrot, you would roll them the same way that you would roll a cylinder. It's just you've got to be at an angle. And so it's not as hard as you think. You just have to apply the concept in the same, in a different way, but it's the same concept that I showed you before. So instead of rolling this straight, we would be rolling this at an angle. Okay, and so you would be able to roll and you'd be able to make something that is pointed on one side, okay, that's little, that is big on the other side. Okay, so this is the same kind of concept of taping a big piece of newspaper together and then rolling it. It's just a different variation on that. Okay, so this would work really well for, say, something like the trunk of an animal, right? Like it's bigger up at the top, smaller down at the bottom. So I would be able to like cut this and use this as like the trunk for my elephant. Okay, so I could slide this on and then tape this to it. Sometimes if it's a little too tight down there, you kind of have to press through, but there we go. So then this would be taped, and then again you would be able to position this trunk however you would want this to be. Okay, and then lots of different tape on there to hold it together. Okay, so now I'm going to show you another technique. I have his ear. Okay, so this is a flat piece, and it doesn't have a lot of thickness to it. So I'm going to go ahead and use a flat piece here and just fold around it. This would work for lots of things. Like someone did this for penguin feet. Like they were at the bottom of the body and they just folded around. If you have fins for like a fish, same thing, you would just fold around. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to use not just a single sheet of paper. I'm going to use like a stacked up set of papers. So I have, let's see. Ooh, if it'll let me. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4. I'm not going to just put a single piece right here. Okay, because once this gets wet, it's going to fall apart. Okay, so I'm going to get some tape ready. I'm going to put this on the back of this ear. So if you look at it, I'm going to tape it down here, and then I'm going to flip it over. Guys, come on, put stuff down. Okay, I'm going to flip it over so you can see this part of it. Let me get another piece down at the back. Okay, and then I'm just going to fold this in. So I'm going to fold over the ear, fold over, and I'm like covering up this wire, but I'm trying to get the shape of the wire. Okay, so you can see like that where I've been able to cover him, and you would need some tape, okay, to cover up those seams. But this is a great way to cover something without having to like make this really thick. Okay, so this is a pretty thin place. You could even like kind of pinch these and curve them inward. So you can kind of see how that gives the elephant some like depth to his ear. You're still able to kind of move it because there's wire inside of it. Okay, now there's another way. Let me show you this. That you can start with a thicker piece of paper. So I'm going to fold this in half. This means that I have like 8 sheets right here. And I'm going to tape the outsides of these. Okay, so get that started. And then I'm going to put a full piece right on the side just so it stays where I want it. This one's already folded. I'm going to do one over here. So I've taped it all together so I can keep it in one section. And now I'm going to cut a shape out of this. So if I needed like the wing to a penguin, I could cut this down the side, and then I would take my piece of tape and recover this section here. I can cut again on this piece. Okay, it's going to fall apart if you don't tape it. So then I could do the same thing here, tape this section over. And so this would give me a flat piece that I can use, but the nice thing about it is you can like pop this open, okay, and then you can fill this with newspaper. Okay, so then this would be more of a 3-dimensional shape. Okay, that could be taped onto something. Okay, do you see how that works? I mean, I know this is an elephant, but you get the idea that you could have something 3D that's going to go on it this way. Okay, so that's another option. Last thing, if you had something really small, like a wire that, like this happens a lot for like an octopus, that you need this to be round. And you want it to be rounded, and this part doesn't work well for it. You can go ahead and wrap it. I might have to talk about this on the next one. I'm going to run out of time.